Good morning once again. I'm Benjamin F. Chambers Jr., President and CEO of the National Newspaper Publishers Association. Welcome to this morning's press conference. I'm very proud to have worked with Howard University professors and officials over the last days and weeks to conclude the National Black Voter Poll. Today is a historic announcement, and we're going to get right to the facts. But I would like to call first the chairman of the board of the National Newspaper Publishers Association to give words of greetings, and then I'll call on Dr. Terry Adams-Fuller from Howard University to introduce all the colleagues from Howard University who are also here. Both the chairman of our board and myself are graduates of Howard University. We're very proud of stellar commitment and contributions that Howard has made for over a century to our country and to higher education, to research, and to put out information that's vital to Black America, but also vital to all Americans. The National Newspaper Publishers Association represents 211 African American owned newspapers in the United States. And next year, 2017, will mark the 190th year, 190 years of the Black press in America since March of 1827, when Freedom's Journal was started in New York City. Denise Bullock Barnes is also the publisher of the Washington Informant newspaper. Denise.
Good morning. Thank you very much for being here. It's a pleasure to be here on this auspicious occasion when we are just a week away from a national election here in the United States of America, one of the most interesting, if I should say, elections that I've experienced in my lifetime. And I think one of the things that adds some value to what's going to happen is a prediction that, well, not necessarily a prediction, but the facts that we outlined today as it relates to the African American voter. You know, we've been hearing on a lot of our political pundits, television shows, news shows, all the way up to this point about what the issues are that are important to Americans. And we haven't heard a lot about those issues, but we particularly haven't heard them from an African American perspective. And so I was extremely pleased and honored as a two-time Howard alum to get the opportunity to, one, hear that Howard University was interested in partnering with the NNPA to conduct this national poll, and two, to have so many of Howard students, graduate students particularly, involved in conducting this national poll. It's the first, we're making history on this occasion, and so I think that's extremely important. And it just shows that as we move forward as an African American institution of higher learning and an African American institution of the press, that we will be working closely together, not only to talk about what the issues are leading up to this election, but to continue to monitor the views and opinions of African Americans throughout this next political cycle. We're talking about national elections today. In 2 days after the election, we're going to start talking about midterm elections. So the cycle never ends, and we're going to be very, very involved in finding out the pulse of our African American voters and working to encourage more to stay engaged in this process. So I look forward to hearing, like you, the results of our poll. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you stand with us, because I'm going to have Dr. Terry Adams-Fuller present all of the colleagues in a number here, and I want to make sure that everybody is properly recognized. From the Department of Sociology and Criminology, Distinguished Professor Dr. Terry Adams-Fuller.
Thank you. I'm very proud of the team that came together to make this happen. We represent various departments within the university. And I'm going to start with one of my colleagues in my department, Dr. Ruben Patterson, from the Department of Sociology and Criminology. We also have Dr. Lorenzo Morris from the Department of Political Science, as well as Dr. Hussein much the same for the Department of Political Science. We also have a partner from the Department of Economics, who will not be joining us right now. But we also have a partner from the Department of Communications, Culture, and Mass Media, Dr. Carolyn Byron. In addition to the scholars that you see before you today, there are a number of graduate students who participated in this summit. Unfortunately, many of them could not join us, but I do want to point out Mr. Clint Walker from the Department of Psychology, who played a critical role. He was an IT tech, couldn't happen without him, so we want to thank him as well.
After we present the release, we'll be open for questions from members of the press. And just please identify what press you're representing, and we will recognize you. With the election only days away, a new national poll shows that Black American voters overwhelmingly plan to vote for Hillary Clinton as their choice for president of the United States. Their choice is influenced by concerns about high quality, affordable education, income inequality, jobs, the economy, race relations, and racial justice. The National Black Voter Poll found a high degree of engagement by registered Black voters in the election, with 96% of the respondents saying they will cast ballots. The same number said that their friends also intend to vote. Nearly all of the respondents in the survey said that they voted both in the 2008 and the 2012 elections. Taken together, the data predict a high voter turnout among Black Americans voters in the November 8th election, and a strong preference for Hillary Clinton over Donald Trump. A substantial majority, 89%, indicated that they will vote for Clinton, and 2/3, 67%, said that they strongly favor Clinton. Another 23% declared moderate support for her. A slightly higher percent, 74%, said that they have overall favorable feelings for Clinton, compared to 2% who said they had favorable feelings for Trump. When asked, do you think Donald Trump is a racist? 84% responded yes. In contrast to feelings toward the current election year's candidates, 90% of respondents said they have overall favorable feelings toward President Barack Obama. Findings are based on a national random sample of more than 900 voters from 22,000 telephone calls made between October 21st and October 3rd, 2016 by researchers in our joint National Newspaper Publishers Association Howard University poll. This was the first national level scientific study focused exclusively on voters who identify as African American, Afro-Hispanic, or other Black identity. The goal of the research was to develop a profile of African American voters in a year when race is believed to be a defining factor in the outcome of presidential and congressional races. The vast majority of respondents in the survey identified as Democrats. To the question in general, do you think of yourself as Democrat, Republican, or something else? 82% of the respondents said Democrat, and only 2% said Republican. Another 16% said they're either independent or other, 9% and 7% respectively. A large majority of respondents, 87%, identified high-quality education as an influence in their decisions, and a nearly equal percent, 84%, pointed to concerns about college affordability as a factor. Other concerns shaping decisions were the economy and jobs, 85%. race relations and racial justice, 84%, and income inequality, 82%. When asked about where they obtain their information about political candidates, nearly half, 46%, said from local television news. Another 24% from cable stations. Approximately a fifth, 18%, said they rely on black newspapers for information about elections. Revelations of new FBI probes into Hillary Clinton's emails occurred in the midst of the research, prompting researchers to compare participant responses to candidates before and after this news. They found that favorable feelings toward Clinton rose slightly, and those toward Trump were cut in half. A sample of the more than 900 registered black voters was 7% female and 30% male. When considered alongside the 96% who said they voted in the previous two elections and also plan to vote on November 8th, black women show that they are at the forefront of social change and political history in the United States by voting to elect the nation's first and now its first black and now its first female president. A majority of respondents said that they had attended college, 73%, were 56 years of age and older. Millennials between the age of 18 and 35 accounted for 11% of the sample. Those surveyed were nearly equally split between employed and not employed, 53% and 47% respectively. Of those employed, 30% said they were federal employees, and 18% said they were union members. Of those not employed, 78% were retired and 22% were unemployed. Nearly half, 48% of the respondents said that they are married, and most, 84%, have a religious affiliation. A strong majority of those identified as Christian. The research was conducted using social science survey methods at Howard University. Research findings, however, do not necessarily reflect the personal views of the researchers, the faculty or the administration of Howard University, or the members of the National Newspaper Publishers Association. Principal investigators on the interdisciplinary Howard research team included Dr. William Spriggs, Department of Economics, Dr. Terry Adams, and Dr. Ruben Patterson, Department of Sociology and Criminology, Dr. Lorenzo Morris, Department of Political Science, and Dr. Carolyn Beverly, Department of Communication, Culture, and Media Studies. Principal liaisons for the NNPA include myself and Denise Rollout Barnes, the chair of the board. We'll now take questions from members of the press.
You asked some traditional questions about immigration, income inequality, but you also mentioned you asked about Donald Trump being racist. Why was that such an important question? And can you give us some more details on what you learned from the respondents when it came to that?
Yes, and I will call Dr. Adams and Dr. Morris and Lorenzo want to help me. She was asking for the context in which the question was asked. Do you think that Donald Trump is a racist? What was the significance of that question? And some of the anecdote in terms of how respondents responded to that question.
Well, it's in the context of how they...
Sir, would you approach the microphone, please? Thank you.
So the importance of race came up in other questions as an issue. The importance of race in a variety of contexts, both educational, criminal justice, and the importance of inequality came up, and inequality among groups as a separate issue from jobs and things like that. So to ask about race in the candidates seemed to be appropriate, and this question got such a strong response in part because the questions about race were imposed at some level, except as the unique determinant of activities. see to what extent it was associated with the candidate or candidates. And it's not surprising given the low levels of respondents who identify with the Republican Party, and it's also less surprising given the way in which the respondents reacted to news such as the email flare-up, in which their responses seem to be slightly more negative, but not slightly, significantly more negative towards Trump, so that there is probably not a lot of favoritism, and we would simply wanted to see to what extent they saw that race linked to him particularly, and we just asked the question to see what their attitudes were, and they're sufficiently strong to think that there has to be a substantial basis for that perception in terms of their feelings, not necessarily in terms of who they are.
Thank you. Yes.
And that question about race was asked of Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, or just of Trump?
Actually, I don't remember the details, but the question was how you feel about it. It's fairly pointless to ask about Hillary since they expressed such strong positive feelings toward her.
Right, but the question in the release says that when asked, do you think Donald Trump is a racist? Clearly 84%, so that a lot would assume that he would believe that he's a racist. But my question is,
was it asked about Hillary Clinton?
Do you think that Hillary Clinton is a racist?
It would make no sense if the prior questions showed that overwhelming percentages showed that they like or were favorable towards Hillary Clinton. You have
Dr. Ruben Patterson.
Yeah, I think, I don't think there's any secret, right? There have been charges that Donald Trump is being a racist.
Right.
We're not even established as a fact, but just that this is an opportunity to find out what are Black's opinions about that.
No, I think that's fair, but I'm here to ask that something fair. And the reason I ask that is because this race is so divisive and the unfavorables of both candidates are so high. So Hillary Clinton, even in her popularity, has a high level of unfavorables. So with that being said, I don't want to take up all of this.
Yeah, I just want to make sure you caught what the survey is saying. Among African Americans, Hillary Clinton has a high favorability, not unfavorability. That's what, and I want you to make sure that you understand, and that's what the respondents reported to us in the poll. This idea that both candidates have unfavorability, that's not true according to the respondents in our poll. Yes.
The questions that have been posed in this survey, among the reasons that they were posed, is it because that they have not been brought up in the debates and have not been at the forefront, like criminal justice reform and employment and economic equality for African Americans? Is this why, or at least part of the reason why these questions have been broached?
Yes, it's a very important question. The answer is yes. Keep in mind, our intention was not to go out and repeat polls that have already been made. This is 1 week before the election. And we wanted to make sure that those issues that impact the quality of life of Black America are at least raised, at least asked. And that's what distinguishes the National Black Voter Poll from other polls. We were deliberate, we were conscious of what some of the feelings were, but we wanted to hear from the respondents. So to answer your question, yes. Next. Yes.
I have a question regarding the methodology of the poll. So you said that the vast majority of the respondents were 56 or older, yet does it make up the majority of the voters, especially when African Americans? Was there any weight of those? Was there any chance to that creating results?
Dr. Marks, you're going to respond.
Election participation. When you're looking at registered voters, you get a huge increase. So, for example, millennials make up 22% of the general population, according to census data, and their turnout rates or registration rates are much lower. So that they make up a much lower percentage of our sample simply because they're a much lower percentage of the registered voter population. So by contrast, in a normal electoral distribution, older populations of 50% are vote more or registered more, and the same difference shows up in in the African American population, often they exaggerate, but more importantly, when they're responding to surveys, there is probably a greater sense to the regular voters, so that you get some increase in the representation of older voters. First, because they're registered. Secondly, because African Americans tend to be more sensitive to those variables, and the differences between older and younger voters are greater. And then thirdly, you get a little bit of a difference because of the willingness to respond to surveys.
Right, that's a very good question. Dr. Pat, thank you, Dr. Morrison. And Dr. Patterson also wants to add to this.
Not going to say much on this, only that just bear in mind that we had a mix of both landline and cell phones in reaching respondents. But also, I want to point out that we're going to be releasing a full report that will include weighted data, and we hope to have that, well, we'll have that no later than Friday this week.
Next question.
I have
Yes.
a question about the Hillary Clinton's trustworthiness. Is that, did you ask questions about her trustworthiness, understanding that 84 or 80% or more of the people who took the survey are in support of Hillary, but I just wonder if they also, if that, because that is certainly, even with the people who support her, that has been one of the drumbeats of the campaign as well.
Right, I think I made reference to the division in the letter and the statement. It was 89% who said they would vote for Hillary Clinton.
Right.
Also, then we asked, is it strong, is it moderate? The majority said it was strong, and then another sizable percentage said it was favorable. The issue of trustworthiness, when we asked people how they felt about Hillary Clinton, the respondents did not raise the trustworthiness question. That's something that's been raised by, other media and other polls. But in our polls, the trustworthiness issue was not a key factor in the respondents.
And we have one of our Brazilian journalists who wants to know why the sampling of females was higher than males.
Well, that's a very good question. I'm going to let one of our females answer that question.
It's just who answered the call to participate in the poll, basically. So that we didn't try to oversample with women. It just happened that way. And it's not unusual that you have more female respondents than male respondents.
In the larger population among Democrats, there is a high percentage of females. And in the African American electorate, there's a much higher percentage of female participation. So if you add the Democratic factor to the African American factor and perhaps a predilection to respond more, that I would expect a higher percentage. But I saw a recent attribution of participation in the Democratic Party among white Americans, and there was a 46 to 32 or something, like a slight 1/3 advantage for women in the Democratic Party, even without regard to race, and given the racial factor and differential participation, it's not surprising.
Yeah, and I'll just add that in 2008 and 2012, black women had the largest share of votes in the election as well as the re-election of President Barack Obama. So there's been a tradition in the African American movement that black women have taken a lead in voter participation and civic engagement.
Can you elaborate on the email question or the email issue? Whether there was a response to that or not?
Yes, and I'll have Dr. Adams fully let you, because it happened good in the middle of the polling, and we wanted to know if there was going to be an impact in those polls.
So he basically answered the question. What we did is we looked at the differences in responses before the new press on the emails and after, and we compared the differences.
And the results were?
The results were as Dr. Shivers just articulated. I don't have it off the top of my head, but basically the opinions of Hillary Clinton didn't change. In fact, her being regarded as being strongly favored increased, and the favorability of Donald Trump actually decreased slightly. So it could have been half. So it could have been a result of the new onslaught of press coverage on this issue, making people really take a stronger look at the candidates, or it could just be a factor of the differences between the two samples before and after this particular event.
Dr. Chambers, can you, just to be clear, no other poll, this is the first of its kind, which is probably, well, I don't want to put words in the mouth, but I'm asking, is that why you formulated questions such as, is Donald Trump racist? Because we have other polls that talk about the email issues, not the one that the FBI dropped on us, but the other emails. We have other polls that talk about Hillary Clinton's trustworthiness. We have other polls that talk about the issues that have been discussed. This was intended to be totally different than what we've seen in the past because of the fact that we've never seen a black poll before. Is that was the line of thinking along those who were conducting this poll?
All polls come out of a certain context. Howard University is the leading historically black college and university in the world. The National Newspaper Publishers Association is the largest and oldest trade association of black-owned newspapers in the world. And so when we decided to do a poll, we took deliberate steps to make sure that we would ask the questions that the other polls were not asking, that we would make reference to the issues and get responses to the issues that affect the quality of life of black America. And so we are very proud. It's very telling that other polls don't ask these questions.
Also the size of the poll. We sampled well over, how many calls did we make? Like over 22,000 calls. It yielded over 800, over 900, I'm sorry, cases.
Right, so those are unprecedented states. This is good. Further answer. Thank you for other polls don't go to this effort. 22,000, more than 22,000 calls were made, and of those 22,000, over 900 respondents completed the entire survey. Registered black voters, not potential voters, those who have already indicated, some in 2012 and 2008, they voted. The majority of these respondents. So it's a strong basis for understanding not just the racial differences in America, but understanding that somewhere between 45 and 47 million black Americans who live in the United States, according to the United States Census, have an opinion. And our opinions should be recognized, our opinions should be given voice, and our opinion should be taken seriously. Next question. All right, we will be around for subsequent interviews. Dr. Patterson has announced that the full complete study will be issued to the public via the NNPA.org website on Friday. Close of business this Friday. Thank you all for coming. One more last question.
One question.
Yes.
The graphic is on the screen here. Are there other graphics that go along with that, or is this the only one?
Yes, we have other graphics. In the full report, there will be other graphics. This graphic shows the 6 issues that came up as important issues to the respondents in the poll. Thank you all very much, and we'll have the full report on Friday. Thank you.